This page is the front cover of DC UK Dreamcast Magazine. It's dominated by Metropolis Street Racer, making some big claims that it will destroy Gran Turismo, and teasing exclusive content like new screenshots and interviews. There's also Sega GT flagged as an exclusive and something about it being stripped to its wheel nuts. Echo the Dolphin and Virtua Striker are also mentioned as featured content. In the corner, Tomb Raider is highlighted with a massive review and a free Lara Croft art print. Can't complain about that. Along the top it mentions reviews for Tomb Raider, Street Fighter, Rayman 2 and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure amongst others, and down at the bottom it boasts 56 games reviewed in this issue, name-dropping Red Dog, Crazy Taxi, Soul Reaver, Deadly Skies, NBA 2K, and Slave Zero as examples. Looks like a bumper issue. This page is an advertisement for the Nomad Soul. It's touting itself as the ultimate out-of-body experience and promising to exploit the promise of Dreamcast. It's flagged as an epic action-adventure game with a rather unique selling point, an original soundtrack from David Bowie and Reeves Gabrels. Quite the coup that was. You can see a few game screenshots dotted around the page, alongside the game box itself. On the right side, there's a dramatic close-up collage of faces, looking quite mysterious and hinting at the game's themes. Issue 8 of the magazine features a comprehensive look at Dreamcast games. Reviews include Tomb Raider, Last Revelation, Rayman 2, Weetrix Plus, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and Wild Metal. News and previews under DC Express cover topics like Sega Japan's future, new game announcements, and the potential for Dead or Alive 2 in the UK. Features delve into Metropolis Street Racer and Echo the Dolphin. DC Next highlights upcoming titles such as Sega GT, Fur Fighters, Space Channel 5, and the Nomad Soul. DC World provides Dreamcast-focused content, including Crazy Taxi and Virtual Striker tips, and information on NTSC games. DC Faces spotlights figures like Toby Gard. Regular sections include editorials, letters, and subscription information. The cover features Metropolis Street Racer, Echo the Dolphin, and Tomb Raider. This D-mail section features reader letters discussing various Dreamcast topics. Tom Piernicki comments on Virtua Striker 2's graphics. Readers discuss mod chips for playing import games, and praise the console's ability to access games from different regions. Richard Hale reviews the Dreamcast's superior sound quality, citing specific games. Matthew Storm questions the difficulty of Dreamcast games. Mitch criticizes simple questions from readers. Talking Balls discusses football games, with one reader enjoying a match and another praising Dreamcast's overall game quality, though football titles are sometimes lacking. The section ends with a mention of potential Electronic Arts game delays, and Anthony Swift's comparison of Sonic Adventure to Mario 64, preferring Sonic Adventure. DC Now magazine's issue 08 features Dreamcast game reviews. Leading the pack is Tomb Raider, The Last Revelation, praised as a solid entry. Street Fighter 3, Double Impact, a classic 2D fighter, and Rayman 2, a platformer with a unique style, also get reviewed. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is recommended for fans of less complex fighters. Weetrix Plus is highlighted for puzzle enthusiasts, and Wild Metal, a tank-based game, is described as a unique experience. The review panel section features individual opinions. Lee Hart favors ISS Pro Evolution. Martin Kitts enjoys JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Stephen Lawson is a fan of Sega GT and Sega Rally 2. Dean Mortlock also likes Sega GT and something called Echo. Sevinke. The What's the Score box explains the review system, out of 10, where 5 is average, above is good, and 10 is perfect. This page is dominated by a review for Tomb Raider, The Last Revelation. It seems to be a thorough going over of the game, calling it the last video game archaeologist steps onto Dreamcast, and praising its blend of discovery and danger, with the tagline, relics to discover and endangered species to kill. The review itself seems positive, mentioning that Tomb Raider on Dreamcast is pretty much as expected, and perhaps even better than the PC version, with improved lighting and shadow effects. It's suggested that even those who might be tired of Tomb Raider should give this one a go. The review panel seems to have given it a good score, which you can see in the fine points box, listing the publisher as Eidos, developer as Core Design, a price of £39.99, and a release date in March. The score is listed as 1 extra none, which is a bit cryptic, but likely means a good score within their rating system. There are also some screenshots from the game, included alongside the text. Tomb Raider, The last revelation on Dreamcast is a worthwhile entry, even for series fatigue. Core design delivers a compelling adventure, successfully adapting the classic Tomb Raider formula. This Dreamcast debut introduces an all-action Indiana Jones-like experience, starting with a young Lara in Cambodia, serving as an effective tutorial. The game boasts improved gameplay and diverse locations like Cambodia, Karnak, and Alexandria. Controls are well implemented for the Dreamcast gamepad. However, occasional camera issues and precise object alignment can be frustrating. The game includes vehicles such as speedboats, motorbikes, and a jeep, featuring driving sections more prominently than previous installments. The review features screenshots showcasing Lara in various environments, including tombs and Egyptian settings, as well as vehicle gameplay. Another reviewer highly praised the game, giving it a 5/5. This page continues the review of Tomb Raider, the last revelation on Dreamcast, reiterating its immersive narrative and cinematic atmosphere. It highlights improvements in animation compared to other titles, such as Shenmue and Code Veronica, and even mentions Claire Redfield as a benchmark. The review does suggest that if a sequel was considered, a complete graphics engine overhaul would be recommended. The combat system is described as disappointing, particularly the auto-aiming, which can be cumbersome. The game does offer manual aiming as an alternative. The reviewer mentions another area where the game's graphics are considered less impressive, noting blocky and angular models and a basic background scenery. However, Lara herself is praised for being highly detailed. A feature called I Spy with My Little Eye is introduced, describing the binoculars and their utility in spotting enemies and far-off inscriptions. The review concludes by stating that despite some problems, Tomb Raider: Last Revelation is an incredibly good adventure game, with thrilling action and testing puzzles, deserving of its place as a next-generation title. The final score given is DC UK 8 out of 10, and the review is signed off by Lee Hart. This page is a review of Street Fighter 3, Double Impact on the Dreamcast, and blimey, about time too, eh? Capcom finally bringing it back after all these years since Street Fighter 2, a good 10 years it says here. They're calling it basic but brilliant, which is high praise indeed. Sounds like they've nailed the feel of the old games but with a bit of new polish. It's for the proper players, they say, the ones who know their SF2 Turbo. Arcade perfect they're calling it, and slapped an 8 out of 10 on it, can't argue with that. They're talking about the super arts and this parrying system, saying it's very different to the Marvel vs. Capcom madness. Sounds like proper Street Fighter through and through then. The big screenshot is Ibuki going at it with Sean in a street scene, with a dodgy looking van in the background. Then there are smaller shots, showing off both Second Impact and New Generation. Got Yun and Ken on a bicycle stage, Hugo, Gil, Remy, all the usual suspects really, across loads of different levels. The next page carries on with the Street Fighter 3 Double Impact review. They're still banging on about how good it is, saying it's a really close call between this and Alpha 3, but they're leaning towards recommending Double Impact. Apparently it's the purest Street Fighter experience since SF2 Turbo, and they reckon it's a classic brawler. There's a big screenshot of Hugo chucking Sean about, in what looks like a town square, bit of a crowd watching on. The review text mentions all the characters included, Ken, Ryu, Akuma, and the 12 new ones, name-checking Sean and Ibuki again, and pointing out Oro as a cool new character. They're saying the graphics are top-notch 2D, which they are, crisp as you like, do be. Then there's a daft little bit called Ballbuster. Sounds like a bonus stage or something where you have to deflect Sean's basketballs. Typical Japanese humor. They've given it another DC UK recommends badge, so they really do rate it. This page features a review for Rayman 2. They're calling it a great-looking, old-school gameplay experience, and reckon it's France's best export since Serge Gainsbourg, whoever he is. The review kicks off by saying platform games were maybe thought of as dead, but Rayman is back. They describe Rayman as a bit of a cult cartoon hero, and reckon if you found Sonic Adventure a walk in the park, then Rayman 2 might actually give you a bit of a challenge. There's a highlighted box, saying the environments are fabulously detailed with startling clarity, which is a nice way of saying it looks pretty good. They mention the puzzles are pleasing, and that the game is at its best when it's focusing on them, rather than just precise jumping. Apparently it took 3 years to make, which they think is a mind-boggling amount of time. They also mention lengthy cutscenes, and a bit about the story involving evil intergalactic pirates. The Fine Points box gives us the lowdown. Published by Ubisoft, developed by Ubihouse, price is £39.99, out in March, single player only, and 60Hz compatible. Overall, it sounds like they're quite impressed with it, especially the environments and puzzles. This page carries on with the Rayman 2 review, and they're now explaining what these lums are in the game. Apparently they're like the game's currency, and you need to collect them to unlock extra bonus games, including one where you race a baby Glowbox. Sounds a bit odd that. They're also highlighting the graphics, saying Rayman is so ugly even butterflies avoid him, which is a bit harsh, but funny. Another screenshot shows Rayman climbing between walls like some sort of mountaineer, and there's a nice picture of Rayman with Glowbox that they reckon is worth taking a photo of. They even have a bit of a dig at the graphics again, saying the only visual fault they can find is that these little energy balls don't cast shadows, which seems like nitpicking if you ask me. Finally, they mention Glowbox Disc, which looks like some sort of multiplayer mode you can play with mates. They also list some for and against points. On the for side, they praise the beautiful graphics, huge levels, lasting challenge, loads of hidden extras, puzzle sections, and the 60 Hz mode. On the against side, they moan about tedious jumping, repetitive bosses, terrible cutscenes, and the gameplay itself, which seems a bit contradictory after all the praise. Overall, it seems they're giving it a decent score, a DC UK 7, so not bad at all. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a 2D beat-em-up for the Dreamcast, described as a hidden gem with a unique twist. Based on a manga, it features a roster of 16 bizarre characters, including Joseph, Jotaro, and their outlandish allies. The game embraces oriental weirdness and complete insanity, with characters using summoning cars and even inflating breasts to attack. Gameplay is simple yet elegant, with light, medium and heavy attacks leading to impressive combos and aerial juggles. The stand mechanic, where ghostly figures fight alongside characters, adds tactical depth, with stands varying in shape and size. The screenshots showcase over-the-top action and colorful visuals. The reviewer praises the game's ability to surprise despite some repetition, concluding that it is a worthy addition to the fighting game genre. This page features a review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They're calling it a bit of a hidden gem on the Dreamcast. Seems like it's based on a manga, and has a really quirky cast of 16 characters, mentioning Joseph and Jotaro. They're highlighting the game's oriental weirdness and crazy attacks, like summoning cars and inflating chests, typical Japanese madness really. Gameplay-wise, it's described as simple to pick up with light, medium and heavy attacks, leading into combos and juggles. The stand mechanic is a key feature, where these ghostly figures fight with you, adding a layer of strategy, with different stand types. The reviewer mentions the cutscenes, and the fact you can play through the whole thing with all 16 fighters. Overall, they reckon it's a good fighting game, and worth checking out if you're into this kind of thing. On the right side of the page, there's an advert for Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, with the tagline, "They say the dead know no pain. Things are about to change." It's got some dramatic screenshots and boasts review scores, a 90% and a 9/10 from Dreamcast Magazine itself, calling it amazing and the most sophisticated adventure. It mentions it's also available on PC and PlayStation, with a playable demo on the Eidos website. This page features a review for Weetrix Plus. Seems like a puzzle game from Take-Two Interactive. They're calling it a quirky water-based puzzler and reckon it's quite addictive. From the screenshots, it looks like you're building up land and controlling water levels, and there are these little duck characters. The review mentions it's simple to get into but has strategic depth, with things like downers, meteors, evaporating water and ice cubes, all affecting gameplay. They talk about building watertight containers and managing water levels, so it sounds like you're trying to keep things under control. They mention elements like point multipliers, rainbow multipliers and bombs, and how crucial it is to manage water and deal with earthquakes. The reviewer, a chap called Jess Bickham, says to forgive it its few faults, and reckons Weetrix Plus is wonderfully original and deftly executed. Sounds like they're impressed overall, calling it as addictive as the greatest puzzle games after an hour or so's play. In the fine points box, it lists Take-Two Interactive as the publisher and developer, price at £39.99, release date as April, and mentions extras like Rumble Pack support and Zeist 2 price. There's also a wet match side panel, but it's a bit small to make out properly. This page features a review for Wild Metal, apparently the first Dreamcast game from the folks who made Lemmings and GTA. They reckon it falls a bit short of those classics though. From the looks of it, it's a vehicle combat game, sort of tank-based, with these chunky polygonal graphics typical of the time. The review itself says it sounds dull on the surface, but if you delve deeper, it's actually quite enjoyable, at least for a bit. They mention the graphics being functional and the vehicle control being spot on. Apparently you're hunting for these power cores and taking on enemies, Graphically, they say for a 128-bit game it's pretty good, everything is smooth. There's a bit about split screen being like sex in the back of a car, enjoyable but cramped, which is a colorful way to put it. They talk about weapon ranges and the AI, saying it's intelligently done. They wrap up by saying it's a decent arcade blast, especially for multiplayer, but it might not keep you hooked for weeks. It got a DC UK 5 out of 5 rating though, so pretty good then. Kiku. In the fine points box, it's down as being from Gallagher Take-Two Interactive, developed by DMA Design, price at £39.99, and release date as October. This page is an advert for Skechers sport footwear. It features images of people in active poses and various styles of Skechers trainers. The advert highlights the Skechers sport footwear branding and includes the website address skechers.com and a list of retailers where the shoes are available, such as Shelley's and Faith, among others in Dublin, Belfast and other locations. This Dreamcast page features game charts and reviews. The top 10 Dreamcast games, according to ChartTrack, are topped by Deadly Skies, followed by Revolt and Virtua Striker 2. Other popular titles include Sonic Adventure, Soul Calibur, and Shadow Man. D-Cook's team recommends Virtua Striker 2 v.2.0.0.1, NHL 2K, and Street Fighter 3, Double Impact. Reader reviews are mixed. Will Mossop enjoyed Toy Commander more than Worms Armageddon. Gavin Stewart rates Pen Triathlon an 8/10, while Power Stone receives a 5/10. Other game scores vary, with Speed Devils, Sega Rally 2, Shadow Man, and Sonic Adventure receiving 5/10. Soul Calibur gets a perfect 10 out of 10. Readers whose reviews are published win a DC UK t-shirt. Corlane. This page showcases a couple of things. On the left there's an advert for T3 magazine. Looks like they're having a competition to win a DVD recorder. Seems pretty cutting-edge tech for the time. Over on the right side, we've got the DC Express news section. The big headline is all about game confirmations for the Dreamcast, shouting, Melia Half-Life, AITD4, Black and White all confirmed for DC. Seems like the French show, probably E3 or something similar, really delivered some exciting news for Dreamcast owners. The article goes on about Melia being the focus of the show, and mentions key figures like Shoichiro Irimajiri giving speeches. It sounds like Sega was really pushing the Dreamcast with a strong lineup of games. They talk about conversions of big PC titles like Half-Life and Alone in the Dark 4, plus Peter Molyneux's Black and White, all heading to the Dreamcast. They're hyping up the improved visuals and new single-player content for Melia. Alongside the Melia news there are smaller snippets. There's mention of a Bond game for the Dreamcast, always a popular license. Vanishing Point gets a shout-out, promising some fast-paced arcade racing action from Acclaim, and Evolver is flagged as a title with a good mix of science and fun. Lastly, there's a quick mention of new peripherals coming out, including keyboards and steering wheels from third-party manufacturers, and some international Dreamcast news rounded things off. Busy page of Dreamcast updates there. The Melia show generated excitement for Dreamcast fans with numerous game announcements. Sega heavily emphasized the Dreamcast's online capabilities, demonstrating the camera and microphone for online chat during gameplay. Sega Japan President Shoichiro Irimajiri voiced ambitions for a new online service, acknowledging the need for improved internet infrastructure, including fiber optic networks, to truly realize their vision. Seiwa. Potential excitement looms with EA possibly publishing a James Bond game, Frey, developed by Euro.com, aiming for a GoldenEye-style first-person shooter. In response to the PlayStation 2's release, Sega reduced the Dreamcast price to remain competitive. Other announcements included the Deva 2000 CX-1, a TV/Dreamcast combo unit, a Sega/Swatch internet-connected watch, and the confirmation of Tokyo Extreme Racer 2. This page previews several Dreamcast games and provides a too-hot-to-handle anticipation list. Vanishing Point, a fast-paced racer from Clockwork Games, is coming to Dreamcast in May. Dead or Alive 2, known for its visual appeal and fan service, is also set for a May release. Published by Acclaim. Roswell Conspiracies, Aliens, Myths and Legends, a Scooby-Doo-style adventure game, is slated for September. The Too Hot to Handle list ranks games by their anticipated release. Coming soon, titles with high heat include Arcatera, Dragon's Blood, Deep Fighter, and many more. Coming not quite so soon, features games like Dead or Alive 2, Resident Evil Code, Veronica, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Coming from a long way off, includes Alien Breed Conflict and Shenmue. A small blurb mentions Type or Die, a game feature involving typing to kill zombies and a bug in Shenmue. The next page showcases a couple of crackers for the Dreamcast. First up is a preview of Virgin Evolves for DC, or Evolver as it's actually called. Seems to be a strategy title where you control these Geno-hunters who are genetically modified creatures, and your job is to wipe out insects and this bizarre cosmic tapeworm. They're banging on about evolving your team and advanced 3D landscapes. Looks a bit different, could be interesting. Then we've got a look at Guilty Gear Exodus. This is described as a proper cult fighter, with lovely artwork and an overhauled fighting system. Apparently, it's a sequel to the PlayStation games, but they reckon this Dreamcast version is a cut above. They're talking about combos, skill-based fighting, and characters with multiple special moves. Seems they've tweaked the gameplay quite a bit since the original PlayStation Guilty Gear, which they mention had a special death move that's been removed for balance in this new one. The story sounds properly bonkers as well, something about an apocalyptic 22nd century, and biomechanical warriors. Looks like a right old button basher in the best way, with some stylish anime characters by the looks of those screenshots. This page features a bit of football chat on the left there, something about Arsenal and Sampdoria, but the real meat is the third-party pieces section. It's all about peripherals coming out for the Dreamcast. They're showcasing the Action Replay cheat cartridge, which was always handy for unlocking those extra bits and bobs in games. Then there's Datel's keyboard, looks a bit futuristic in blue, and their memory cards, 1 and 4 meg ones they are saying, will retail for around 12 and 17 quid. Joytech are also in the memory card game, apparently. Rounding it off is the Thrustmaster Ferrari steering wheel, which they reckon is a decent bit of kit for racing games, especially after using the standard Dreamcast controller. Over on the right, it's a full-page advert for Netscape Online, pushing their internet service for access and local phone call pricing. 100% net, 100% free they are claiming, certainly a tempting offer back then. This page previews Silver, a PC RPG coming to Dreamcast, emphasizing its innovative blend of Japanese RPG elements with real-time combat. Players control David in a 3D world, engaging in arcade-style battles with sword techniques. The page also features Dave 2000, offering insider commentary. An article discusses game delays, citing polishing as the reason, and Shenmue as a worthwhile example. Finally, a full-page advertisement promotes Cheats Unlimited, a cheat code service offering codes for over 2,000 games, including numerous Dreamcast titles, accessed via a premium-rate phone line. This Dreamcast news update leads with the confirmation of Grandia 2 for the console, easing fan concerns. Sega also plans a major presence at the Tokyo Game Show, showcasing playable demos of anticipated titles like Phantasy Star Online, Eternal Arcadia, and Jet Set Radio, alongside arcade conversions. The update also features a look at the Dream Eye, a digital camera peripheral for the Dreamcast. Additionally, it highlights Virtua Fighter 4's online capabilities and potential character roster updates for the Dreamcast version, which may see delays. Online social gaming on the Dreamcast is also discussed, thanks to Isao Corp and Dream Passport. Speculation about a 3D King of Fighters game for Dreamcast is mentioned, and an MP3 player attachment from Isao Corp for playing music and storing files on a VM is detailed. This DC Express update previews several upcoming Dreamcast games. Konami's sports titles, NBA Tonight and ESPN Baseball Tonight, aim for realistic simulations with impressive presentation. NBA Tonight highlights dunks and player details, while Baseball Tonight focuses on innovative controls. Deus Ex Machina, a role-playing game from the creators of Doom, Ultima Underworld, and System Shock, offers a cyberpunk thriller experience set in a future rife with conspiracies. Drones On, a futuristic sports game from Zeta, blends Tron and Speedball elements in vibrant arenas with fast-paced drone combat. Finally, Gauntlet Throwdown showcases new screenshots of Gauntlet Legends, aiming to recapture the classic Atari spirit, with updated graphics and dungeon-crawling gameplay. This page is an advert from Gameplay, flogging Dreamcast games at bargain prices, £29.99 or less they're saying. They've got a Dreamcast hardware bundle on offer too, console UEFA Striker, and a SCART Lead, all for £249.99. Loads of accessories listed here as well, carry cases, keyboards, VMUs, arcade sticks, all the bits and bobs you could need. Moi. Then there's a massive list of UK Dreamcast games available. Looks like they've got pretty much everything. Loads of cracking titles there. Aero Wings, Blue Stinger, Crazy Taxi, Dynamite Cop 2, House of the Dead 2, Marvel vs. Capcom, NBA 2K, NFL Blitz 2000, Power Stone, Resident Evil 2, Sega Rally 2, Sonic Adventure, Soul Calibur, Space Channel 5, Virtua Fighter 3 TB, WWF Attitude and many more. A proper treasure trove of Dreamcast classics. Nos? There's a little section about the Neo Geo Pocket Color as well, and they're banging on about a money-back guarantee in order form. Standard mail order stuff really. A good reminder of when you actually had to fill out forms and post them to buy games. This article humorously presents a series of rejected fighting game characters from Capcom and Namco titles, like Street Fighter and a fictional game called Capcom vs. Neighbors. The characters are parodies, poking fun at stereotypes and questionable design choices. Vernon Fields is a Chun-Li-obsessed stalker. Tony Slayer is a power-hungry politician. Dave Racer is a Yakuza-involved racer. Token Babe is a scantily clad sailor girl. Serial Simon is a zombie with a chainsaw and blowtorch. Their bizarre backstories and ridiculous special moves highlight the absurdity of fighting game tropes. The page is designed to be a humorous reflection on fighting game character design, exaggerating offensive and strange concepts that were never officially considered. This page dives headfirst into Metropolis Street Racer, and rightly so. It's previewing Bizarre Creations' new racer, and the opening lines are pure hype, describing tearing through London streets in a Mitsubishi FTO at 180 miles per hour, with the police unable to keep up. The screenshots showcase the game's impressive cityscapes, with glimpses of London landmarks and some slick-looking cars in various nighttime scenes. The article text reveals the initial skepticism around the game, but it quickly changed to excitement after seeing it in action. They mention the realistic renditions of Tokyo, San Francisco, and London, and the impressive early screenshots. The preview highlights the industry buzz around the game, calling it a must-have, and praising the developer's dedication. It seems the game's focus on letting the player speak for itself is working, leaving the journalist very impressed. They're clearly excited about Metropolis Street Racer, and rightfully so. It was shaping up to be something special on the Dreamcast. This page continues the deep dive into Metropolis Street Racer, expanding on the game's locations. It details the three main cities featured, San Francisco, Tokyo, and London, breaking them down into specific iconic districts. For San Francisco, it highlights Fisherman's Wharf, boasting Alcatraz views and tricky driving routes. Tokyo's Shibuya is noted for its neon-lit atmosphere and open-plan bus station, perfect for a driving challenge. London features Westminster, with Big Ben and Even Street Thomas's Hospital, and Trafalgar Square as locations. The developers talk about the meticulous detail they've put into recreating these areas, emphasizing the realism and the challenges the varied environments present for players. They mention using over 20 routes in each location, all based on actual street plans within 1.52 square miles, explaining their location choices. The overall impression continues to be one of incredible detail and ambition for this new racer. The next page continues with Metropolis Street Racer, and focuses on the incredible detail they're putting into recreating the cities. It mentions the quote, "Big Ben will show the correct time drawn from Dreamcast's internal clock," which is a great touch for realism, relying on the Dreamcast's own clock. The page highlights the three main locations again, San Francisco, Tokyo, and London, and goes into detail about the features of each. For example, in San Francisco they've got suicidal pedestrians and those chevron boards, while Tokyo at night is amazing for driving, and Pacific Heights has wide streets for power slides. The Building the Cities section explains the process of creating these virtual cities, with Mark and John from Bizarre Creations talking about how they visited the locations, took loads of photos, apparently getting almost arrested at one point, and used government survey maps and aerial photographs to get everything spot on. They even modeled the buildings and roads from these sources. It's all about accuracy and detail, aiming to make these cities feel like the real deal in the game. The screenshots really show off the atmosphere, especially the nighttime Tokyo scenes, and the daytime cityscapes. The next page carries on with Metropolis Street Racer. It's all about the incredible detail they've put into the car models, calling them Fatmobiles. They've used over 30 cars based on real vehicles from manufacturers like Toyota, Audi, and Rover. Steve Heaney and Lee Carter from the development team talk about how they got hold of tons of information for each car, from brochures and blueprints to photos taken at car shows. They even used computer schematics of a Mustang as an example. There's a quote saying, Having seen the beautifully modeled cars, it's clear MSR is testament to the power of Dreamcast. The article mentions the Dreamcast's 8 MB of RAM and clever compression techniques that allow for a massive game world to be loaded in without slowdown. They also mention the little details, like Big Ben showing the correct time thanks to the Dreamcast's internal clock, and shadows cast by stationary buses. The team at Bizarre Creations were really focused on getting the atmosphere right, even down to tweaking the handling to feel realistic and playable. They seem really pleased with how it's all come together, and are hoping players will enjoy exploring these virtual cities. This page is a DC Faces feature focusing on Toby Gard, the man who invented Lara Croft, and is now working on a Dreamcast title called Galleon. It's an interview format where Toby talks about his career, starting with being unemployed and doing artwork and animation on his Amiga. He mentions working on BC Racers, and how he proposed the idea for Tomb Raider to core design. He says the general consensus was that it was ambitious, but they went ahead with it. There's a quote from him saying, "Galleon is a much stronger stab at what we were trying to do when we made Tomb Raider." He talks about Galleon being a third-person adventure game, and how they aim to make it stylistically different from Tomb Raider, wanting it to be extraordinarily high, but all in all, it was trying to stay pretty realistic in style. He mentions drawing inspiration from Ray Harryhausen films like Sinbad and Clash of the Titans. He also mentions the fighting in Galleon is based on fabulous fly-by-wire kung fu films. The interview ends with him talking about future ambitions, saying they're concentrating on finishing Galleon and seeing what happens next. There's a photo of Toby Gard, looking rather thoughtful next to the interview text. It sounds like Galleon is something to watch out for on the Dreamcast, aiming to be quite different but with a similar adventurous spirit to Tomb Raider. This page in DC Faces features Colin Mallory, who's been in the Sega coin-op industry for 45 years, distributing Sega arcade machines across the UK. The interview dives into his long career, starting back in the early 70s at Battersea Park Funfair. He recounts how arcades have changed, moving from coin-operated machines to card systems, and the challenges faced as home consoles became more dominant. When asked about his favorite Sega games, Daytona USA gets a mention as revolutionary, and Sega Rally is hailed as an all-time classic. He also mentions House of the Dead and Virtua Tennis as successful games from the Naomi arcade board era. Mallory reflects on the tough state of the arcade business today, noting it's a struggle to get a share of leisure spending, and that many arcades have sadly closed. Outside of work, he enjoys keeping koi carp and collecting antiques, saying these hobbies keep him busy. It's a fascinating look at the history of arcades and the challenges they face today, from someone who's been right in the thick of it with Sega for decades. The next page is an advert for Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future. It's billing it as Echo's greatest adventure yet, saying he's been lying low for years, but now the planet needs his help again. The advert has a large, dramatic image of Echo swimming, and a pink box on the right that says, "Welcome to Waterworld." It also credits the words to Lee Hart. It's a classic pitch to bring back a familiar character for a new generation on the Dreamcast. This preview focuses on Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future for the Dreamcast, emphasizing its environmental themes and unique gameplay. Echo returns as a protector of the oceans, his story revolving around time travel to restore harmony disrupted by an evil force. The game features 32 diverse levels, from Crystal Bay to Atlantis, showcasing innovative gameplay elements that differ from typical action games. Communication via sonar is crucial for solving puzzles, exemplified by a whale rescue scenario. Players will also face dangerous sea creatures like sharks, requiring strategic combat. The preview highlights the game's vibrant visuals and detailed underwater environments, boasting graphics that surpass Sonic Adventure. It concludes by underscoring the game's visual appeal and overall quality, promising a unique and visually stunning experience. This page delves deeper into Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future. It talks about some of Echo's new abilities, like water music powers you can grab extra strength, health, air, and even invisibility. Apparently, there are songs to collect too, from fish, sharks, and rays. There's a bit about Echo transforming into other sea creatures, shape-shifting they're calling it, which sounds like a clever twist. They also mention some proper action sequences, comparing it to Metal Gear Solid, with guard dodging and tunnel chases involving electric eels. Sounds a bit intense for an Echo game. Then, there's a section looking back at the Echo games from the past. It mentions the original Echo on the Mega Drive and the sequel, Tides of Time, acknowledging they were a bit bonkers plot-wise but great games back in the day. They even mention Echo Jr. on the Mega Drive, and a Pico version, which is a bit niche, even for me. They touch on a less successful sequel they call The Bubble, hinting at a previous attempt that didn't quite work out. But the article is really keen on this new Dreamcast Echo, saying it's a fresh start, a new millennium for the series. They reckon Defender of the Future will be just as original, atmospheric, and inventive as the game that started it all, which is high praise indeed. An article examines the connection between the game Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future, and real-world dolphin conservation, featuring an interview with David Jones from the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society. Jones served as a consultant, noting the game's unique ecological message and its focus on the dolphin's natural habitat. The article highlights the game's incorporation of serious real-world inspirations, like military use of dolphins, particularly within the pumping station level. Jones praises the game's realistic sound design, graphics, and camera angles. He emphasizes that Echo avoids being a generic action game and instead offers a positive, environmentally conscious experience. The article also includes screenshots of the game and a profile of David Jones and the WDC Society. Gia. This page is an advertisement encouraging subscriptions to the magazine for £6 every 3 months, highlighting a saving of £14.35. It mentions that this saved amount could buy several pints, a joypad, or something for a loved one. There's a UK direct debit offer for 13 issues at £24, saving 37%, with a hotline number provided. Below are examples of back issues, including the December 1999 issue, featuring Dark Star, January 2000 with Lift Off, February 2000 showcasing Crazy Taxi, and March 2000 with Code Veronica on the cover. Finally, there is a subscription form for readers to fill out, detailing payment methods and personal details to subscribe. The page showcases 2 distinct sections. The left side advertises intermusic.com, a website for music production, offering gear reviews and downloads. They also recommend musicshare.com and samplenet.co.uk for programs and samples. The right side previews games from DC Next Issue 8, April 2000. Sega GT, a potential system seller and Sega's answer to Gran Turismo, is highlighted. Space Channel 5 promises a rhythm action experience. Fur Fighters is described as an exciting cartoonish action game. Nightmare Creatures 2 brings gothic action. Four Wheel Thunder offers arcade-style off-road racing. The Nomad Soul, already released on PC, is mentioned. Finally, Sword of the Berserk is a dark, violent hack-and-slash game. Tech Romancer and Dragon's Blood are also referenced. This page showcases a preview of Sega GT, billing it as hot in Japan, and Sega's answer to Gran Turismo. The article emphasizes the level of detail in the game, boasting about frame rates, licensed cars, and the track list. It acknowledges comparisons to Gran Turismo, but insists Sega GT is its own beast. The author seems impressed, mentioning the game's visuals and playability after just 7 days with the Japanese import version. The right side of the page delves into a 9-course feast, which is a breakdown of 9 tracks in Sega GT. It mentions that single race mode will be the first mode most players will try and describes these tracks as the best 9 in the game. These tracks are Deep Rock Road, Night Section A, Snowy Mountain, Sky Peak Hill, Solid Circuit, and Great Rock Road. Each track gets a short description highlighting its features, like Deep Rock Road being gentle with wide curves, Night Section A being graphically impressive in a city setting, and Snowy Mountain being a good graphic showcase. Sky Peak Hill offers beautiful chicanes and views, Solid Circuit is described as deceptively tricky, and Great Rock Road is a longer, more difficult version of Deep Rock Road. This page continues the racing theme, but shifts focus to Rally 2. It's got a feature section titled The Car's the Star, which is all about the different motors you can choose from in the game. They're highlighting a few specific marquees: Nissan with the Skyline, Mazda with the RX-7, Honda with the NSX, and Mitsubishi and their GTO twin-turbo. They reckon there are over 136 motors in total, which is a decent amount. The descriptions for each car are brief but complimentary, like the Skyline being praised for its engine and power sliding, and the RX-7 for its handling. The screenshots show in-game action and car selection screens, showcasing the variety of vehicles on offer. It's clear they are keen on emphasizing the car roster as a key selling point for Rally 2. This page is all about Space Channel 5, marked as one to watch in DC UK, so they're clearly excited about this one. It's being described as a groovy rhythm action game for the Dreamcast, with pink hair and orange PVC being key ingredients, which sounds very Sega. The article highlights it as a cool dancing game, exclusive to the Dreamcast, and a bit of a looker, comparing the main character Eula to a very stylish video game star. They mention the game is set in a colourful cartoon world, very 50s sci-fi in style, and Ulala is a presenter on Space TV. Her mission is to get the alien Marolians dancing, and they quote her mission statement as, "Her mission is to show the alien Marolians just how funky a human being can get." Apparently, the gameplay involves memorizing sequences and pressing buttons in time to the music, comparing it to games like Jam-a-Lammy but in 3D space. They praise the game's visual style and the intuitive controls, saying it's all designed to give a great visual experience. They even drop a Michael Jackson reference, suggesting he might be a fan later on. Overall, it sounds like they are really impressed with the game's style, music and dance elements. Fur Fighters, developed by Bizarre Creations, is a third-person shooter with puzzle elements, described as one to watch. Players control 6 animal characters, each with unique abilities, and can transform between them using transporter bubbles. The game features a vast array of weapons, and a cartoonish, humorous style reminiscent of Banjo-Kazooie, with open-world design. Set in a 1950s sci-fi world with influences from Thunderbirds and Disneyland, Fur Fighters offers exploration, minigames, and vehicle driving. The control system is similar to GoldenEye, utilizing color buttons for movement. The game features 6 hubs, each with 3 levels, and a boss fight. The developers are aiming for a quirky and interesting experience, blending action, puzzles, and a unique setting. The next page features a preview of Nightmare Creatures 2. This sequel is set a century after the original and brings back the sorcerer Adam Crowley. It's described as a creepy action-adventure, a follow-up to the Victorian London set Nightmare Creatures. The article mentions the game's focus on combat with zombies and other creatures, puzzle solving, and exploration across a multi-layered game world. They highlight the over-the-top nature with the memorable quote, "There's a zombie with a chainsaw, and a creature that uses a ribcage on a chain as a weapon." It's a preview piece, so it's showcasing the game's potential and what to expect, but it's worth noting this one didn't actually make it to the Dreamcast, ending up on other platforms instead. This page showcases a first look at Four Wheel Thunder, describing it as a game with massive pickup trucks and enormous wheels. It's a racing game, apparently focusing on off-road circuits with big jumps and intense handling. They mention the visuals are crisp, and the gameplay is said to be enjoyable, with challenging vehicles and races against multiple opponents. There are a few screenshots showing the monster trucks in action on various terrain and racing environments. The fine points section reveals it's being published by Midway, developed by Callisto, and the origin is described as "Eat My Trucks," with an eater of spring. On the right side, there's an advert for Total Film magazine, boasting a new issue. The cover features Angelina Jolie, Michael Mann and Mark Wahlberg, and it highlights articles inside on the movie Three Kings, with a quote from George Clooney about the film. It also mentions features on The Insider and A Clockwork Orange. The advert ends with "On sale now" in big letters, pushing their latest magazine issue. This page offers a first look at the Nomad Soul, which sounds like a proper interesting sci-fi adventure game for the Dreamcast featuring the music and likeness of David Bowie himself. Quite a coup. It's described as a PC to Dreamcast conversion, set in a sprawling futuristic city called Omicron, where you play as someone who can jump into different bodies to solve a murder mystery. The preview mentions a mass outbreak of some sort of disease, and a rather immersive, almost Blade Runner-esque futuristic city to explore. Gameplay-wise, it's a mix of adventure and RPG elements, with combat sequences and shootouts from both first and third-person perspectives. They highlight the body swapping mechanic as a key feature, allowing you to inhabit various characters, each with their strengths and weaknesses. Apparently, David Bowie is involved in the game as the character Boz, and has contributed new songs to the soundtrack, which is a big selling point. There are screenshots showing various aspects of the game, including in-game action, characters, and environments. One image shows a first-person perspective with a targeting reticule, another shows characters in conversation, and another depicts some sort of action scene. The fine points section lists the publisher as Eidos, developer as Quantic Dream, origin France, and an eater of May. They seem quite impressed, calling the futuristic city impressively interactive. This page is a preview for Sword of the Berserk, Guts Rage, and they're hyping it up as some serious fun with a big sword, even comparing it to the fun had with Final Fantasy V2, which is bold. They're saying the gameplay is harking back to those classic 80s arcade coin-ops like Golden Axe and Splatterhouse, so expect some button-bashing action there then. Graphically they're impressed, calling it beautifully rendered with textures that look hand-drawn, which does look quite nice in the screenshots. It's based on the Berserk manga, and you're playing as Guts, facing off against a virus and loads of monsters. The screenshots show plenty of sword combat and blood splatter, and they point out features like a rage meter and limited ranged weapons. Developed by Ukes and published by Eidos, it's slated for a spring release. This preview highlights 2 upcoming games. Tech Romancer, a fighting game by Virgin Interactive, features customizable robots engaging in button-mashing combat with special moves reminiscent of classic fighting games. The game boasts colorful graphics, manga-style cutscenes and a spring release. Dragon's Blood, developed by Crawfish and due in April, is a 3D action-adventure. Players choose a male or female adventurer and battle through an elfin treetop world, utilizing swordplay, blocking, dodging, and magic potions. The game draws comparisons to Rayman 2 and Golden Axe, promising creepy enemies and visceral combat described as chopping through solid pixie flesh. This page of the magazine is dedicated to the Dreamcast world and offers Hints of the Month. Kicking things off is a hint for Crazy Taxi advising players on extra tips for the bonus missions in Virtua Striker 2. The In This Section breakdown reveals a variety of articles including Tips Guide, focusing on more Crazy Taxi boxes, and Virtua Striker 2 tips. Top Secrets covers Soul Reaver, Worms Armageddon, Crazy Taxi, Virtua Striker 2, and Zombie Revenge. Extended Play is about Soul Calibur and Virtua Striker again, encouraging readers to take on the DC UK challenge. Ask Auntie Esther is a queue and a section. Coining It offers a sneak peek at a new Namco board game and Off-Road Thunder. NTSC-TAS covers NHL 2K and Bangai OH Import. Surf's Up is part 2 of a guide on creating your own website on Dreamcast and looking at website creation. Team Diary features Claire talking about vegetables and Bristol Rovers, whatever that's about. Next month previews Fur Fighters. Review Listings is a list of reviews since issue 01, and Brain in a Jar features Bits TV presenter Emily B picking her top 5 games. There are screenshots for Coining It showing Off-Road Thunder, NTSC showing an ice hockey game, and Surf's Up showing a web page creation interface. On the left, there's a strange black and white advert for something called Future Gamer Clan with a website address. This page is the Player's Guide section, focused entirely on Crazy Taxi bonus missions and tips for the Dreamcast. It's all about mastering the Crazy Box mode, breaking down each of the bonus challenges. First up is Crazy Bowling, which is tricky and relies on Crazy Drift for knocking down pins. Next is Crazy Zigzag, described as sounding daunting, but actually relying on timing and Crazy Drift. Crazy Zigzag 2 is similar, but tougher, with narrow ocean-bound freeways and more passengers to drop off. Crazy Through is about weaving through traffic, using Crazy Drift. Crazy Parking is about navigating a multi-story car park and utilizing Crazy Drift off-ramps. Crazy Party is set in a nightclub area, with customers dotted around requiring quick pickups in a limited time. Crazy Attack is described as the 7th Crazy Taxi bonus mission, only unlocked after completing all mini-bonus missions, and is a counterclockwise circuit around the arcade zone in 4 minutes. Finally, Crazy Box itself is detailed, showing the menu and suggesting you'll need skill and luck to get through it all. Difficulty ratings are provided for each mission out of 10, with most being 8, 9 or 10, suggesting these are tough challenges indeed. Looks like this magazine is really digging into the nitty-gritty of mastering Crazy Taxi, a truly classic Dreamcast title. This page is a player's guide for Virtua Striker 2 Ver. 2000 to 1 Extra Time, offering tactics and gameplay advice. It kicks off with Formation, suggesting you should use a 442 as a good all-rounder, easy to switch to fullback and attack from the wings. Style is next, recommending offensive, normal or defensive, depending on the game situation and your opponent. Passing emphasizes the importance of the diagonal ball to an unmarked player and having a mental image of where your players are going. Skillful defending advises on clearing the ball, turning to face the attack, and using 3 safe options: pass to a supporting defender, long pass into center, or turn gradually to clear the ball. Crossing gives 4 methods for getting a cross in, from having knocked the ball down the wing, to using first touch pinpoint crosses. Scanner section highlights this feature as useful for spotting crossing opportunities and seeing where your players are. Finally, basic goal scoring details how to attack the edge of the area, bend your run gently, and keep your keeper parrying shots away from the goal. There are screenshots demonstrating these tips throughout, showcasing in-game action from Virtua Striker 2. This page details cheat codes and secrets for several Dreamcast classics. For Virtua Striker 2 the 2001, players can unlock hidden teams like Yuka-chan and FC Sega, along with secret stadiums and a secret pushbike mode. Crazy Taxi features modifiers like Another Day mode, no arrows, no destination markers, and expert mode, and also includes the secret pushbike option. Zombie Revenge unlocks include everything, infinite time, and customizable blood and costume colors. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver has extensive cheats to unlock all abilities, power-ups, max health/magic, and glyph abilities. An advertisement from Otaku Planet promotes discounted Dreamcast consoles and games, including Crazy Taxi and Virtua Striker. Extended play in the magazine focuses on maximizing enjoyment of Dreamcast games, specifically Virtua Striker 2 the 2000.1 and Soul Calibur. For Virtua Striker 2, it details unlocking arcade mode and secret teams, building on prior cheat information. Gameplay tips include zigzag runs, using chips for passes and shots, mastering overhead kicks, and utilizing the move. A challenge is set. Score a beautiful goal and get 600 plus points with an overhead kick for a prize. Soul Calibur's single-player experience is emphasized. The article covers unlocking 7 hidden fighters, Edgemaster, and Xianghua's third costume. Mission mode, with over 200 pictures, secret missions, and costumes, is highlighted. Different game modes include arcade mode, survival mode, and challenging mission mode. Another challenge is presented. Achieve a specific time attack, time for a prize. This article features an Ask Auntie Esther advice column for Dreamcast owners. Questions cover a range of topics, including digital cameras, game modes in Virtua Striker 2 and Crazy Taxi, the likelihood of Team Fortress 2 and Daytona 2, MP3 playback support, and release dates for anticipated games like Virtua Cop 3. Auntie Esther provides concise answers, often with a humorous tone. A separate interview with Auntie Esther discusses her excitement for House of the Dead 2 and upcoming first-person shooters. Reader responses touch on game downloads, website suggestions, and email etiquette. The article concludes with Dreamcast hardware specifications, including its processor, graphics chip, storage, audio, memory, video output, and modem capabilities. This page is all about the arcade scene coming to the Dreamcast. First up, we've got Off-Road Thunder from Midway, described as a land-based offshoot of Hydro Thunder. It mentions the gameplay involves crazy racing action with gravity-defying jumps and hidden shortcuts. It also points out the various race types across diverse terrains, and additional modes like Demolition Derby, and a Capture the Flag style mode called Snag the Flag. Then there's Gunbird 2 by Sikyo. They're bringing this 2D shoot-'em-up to the Dreamcast, following on from titles like Gigawing. It's described as a classic vertical shooter, with power-ups and screen-filling weapon effects. They reckon it's perfect for old-school fans who enjoy a good bit of arcade action. Finally, there's news about a new Namco arcade cabinet, called Cyber Lead 2. Apparently it's a general-purpose cabinet that can handle both Naomi and System 12 games, which is clever. It's also got a slot link system for data sharing between the arcade machine and home consoles, which sounds intriguing. Namco are planning to release 2 Dreamcast titles for it, Tukon Retsuden 4 Arcade Edition and Superworld Stadium 2000, and they are planning to release Dreamcast titles at a rate of 2 per year to tie in with arcade releases. They also mentioned the intention to include coin-op-style extras and graffiti, which they've apparently improved based on player feedback. They are also planning to release Soul Calibur 2 later in the year. NHL 2K, developed by Black Box Games, is praised for its exceptional ice hockey simulation on the Dreamcast, rivaling top sports titles. It boasts realistic ice reflections, improved puck behavior, and superior graphics compared to older consoles. The game emphasizes realistic physics and analog controls for shot direction and height. Romania number 203, released in the UK in spring 2000, is a bizarre Sega title. The game features a Seaman-esque experience, where players interact with a young Japanese man, Neji Taihei, in a room. Players throw colored balls at him, affecting his life, with gameplay centered around manipulating the environment. The review highlights the game's unusual premise, Japanese cultural context, and overall strangeness, describing it as a unique and potentially unsettling experience. This section focuses on Dreamcast import gaming. It explains the appeal of importing games, especially for titles unavailable in the player's region, and briefly discusses the technical requirements for playing NTSCJ games. A preview of Timestalkers, a quirky RPG, is provided, highlighting its time-traveling narrative and classic RPG gameplay. A Project K import top 10 chart showcases popular import games like Sega GT, Shenmue, and Soul Calibur. Finally, a top 5 most requested games list features anticipated titles, such as Dead or Alive 2. Notably, there is also a public service announcement about domestic violence, with a Dreamcast and a Soul Calibur screenshot, which is presented as an odd juxtaposition. This page continues the Surf's Up special guide, focusing on using the Dreamcast for web browsing. It's all about web weaving the Dreamkey way, explaining how to create web pages that work well on the Dreamcast. It mentions Dreamkey supports Frames and JavaScript, though earlier JavaScript, and Flash 3, which was a bit behind even then. The article talks about download times being quite lengthy due to the standard 56K modem, advising to keep file sizes down and optimize images for faster loading. It suggests keeping images under 20 kilobits and the total page weight around 50 kilobits. Websites. The Easy Way section highlights website building services like Basine and Amazon to easily create your own websites optimized for Dreamcast viewing, suggesting it's a straightforward process even for beginners. Final Thoughts concludes that the Dreamcast browser is universal and useful, but website design needs to be considerate of its limitations. It mentions Easy Websites as a site that uses simple rollovers and is well suited for Dreamcast browsing. Finally, Section 04 features a vibrant image showcasing Capcom games, including what looks like artwork from various titles, with Capcom logos prominently displayed, likely an advertisement for their Dreamcast games. This issue of the Surf's Up special features a guide, A Site is Born, on building websites optimized for Dreamcast browsing. The guide covers planning, design, HTML creation, Dreamcast-specific adjustments, and testing, emphasizing the importance of small file sizes for dial-up modems. The magazine also presents reader poll results, with humorous game options alongside titles like Virtua Striker, Sega Rally 2, and Crazy Taxi. An essential info section provides a glossary of internet terms like HTML and browser. Lastly, the Reader Sites section highlights community-created websites, including GameSwap and Sega Weekly, encouraging readers to submit their own Dreamcast-related sites. The next page in the magazine features a team diary, documenting the magazine staff's daily goings-on throughout February 2000. It reads like a behind-the-scenes glimpse into their work and personal lives, mentioning office banter, Valentine's Day, and trivial events. There's also a hip-hop column by Stephen Lawson, which seems to be a regular feature, alongside sections discussing music production and various artists, though these all seem fairly detached from Dreamcast games specifically. However, on the right side of the page, things get interesting with a Supermatch Play section, focusing on team battle mode in a game. It looks like a tournament report and analysis. The write-up describes this month's featured game for DCook's Greatest Games Player, stating that this month, Lee slashes his way to the top of the table. The article then details a Soul Calibur tournament, highlighting matches and players. It seems Lee Mighty Chopper Hart won the tournament against Sophia Christian in the final. Other players mentioned in the quarter and semi-finals include Keek Keith, Carl Nightmare and Esther. There's a losers playoff result also detailed. The article concludes with a league table, showing rankings for Lee Mighty Chopper Hart at the top, followed by Stephen Blimp Lawson, Keith Inadequate Stick Stewart, Christian Lovely Lady Day, Carl Nightmare James, and Team Sloppy Maid Girl. Finally, there's a teaser for next month's battle, Sega GT, so it seems they'll be covering that game in depth next time. This page is an advert for the next issue of the magazine, which is set to feature Fur Fighters. There's also an exciting announcement for an exclusive Fur Fighters demo disc available with this issue, which sounds fantastic for readers to try the game. The advert shows screenshots of various Fur Fighters characters, named Chang, Bungalow, Juliet, Rico, Tweak and Rufus. The demo disc itself boasts a selection of other playable demos like MDK2, Tech Romancer, Space Channel 5, Toy Story 2, Echo the Dolphin, Dragon's Blood, and GTA 2, along with online gaming news. It's slated for release, with issue number 08, boarding Thursday, March 16th. This Dreamcast game review collection covers a diverse range of genres. Standouts include the arcade racer Crazy Taxi, the light gun shooter House of the Dead 2, and the fast-paced water racer Hydro Thunder. Fighting games like Marvel vs. Capcom and Ready 2 Rumbles are highlighted, with the latter being praised as a top beat-em-up. Sports fans might enjoy NBA 2K for its realism, or NFL Blitz for arcade fun. Power Stone is lauded for its innovative arena fighting. Other reviewed games include RPG Evolution, Shooter Deadly Skies, and Racers Buggy Heat and Revolt Revolution. Notably, the reviews touch upon the graphics, gameplay, and overall enjoyment of these diverse titles. This Dreamcast game review roundup covers a diverse range of genres. Standouts include Sonic Adventure and Shadow Man, both 9/10, praised for their immersive experiences, and the perfect score earned by Soul Calibur. Several other titles received a 7/10, including Sega Bass Fishing, Sega Rally 2, Slave Zero, Speed Devils, Tee-Off Golf, Toy Commander, Virtua Fighter 3 TB, and Worldwide Soccer 2000. SF Alpha 3 and Worms Armageddon both scored an 8/10. However, some games disappointed, with Snow Surfers and Vigilante 8 each receiving a low 3/10. Soul Fighter, Suzuki L-Stare, Wafer Striker, Virtua Striker 2, WWF Attitude scored between a 4 and a 6. Jerkhair. The next page is a bit of a mixed bag, really showcasing the landscape at the time. Dominating the page is the cover of Arcade Magazine, of course highlighting Colin McRae Rally 2, a highly anticipated title for the Dreamcast. There's a big image from the game itself, a chap gripping a steering wheel looking rather intense, and the words "New issue on sale now" plastered across it. Pretty standard magazine promotion. Alongside that, you've got various adverts dotted around the page. There's a section for DC UK web directory, listing websites like budgetcomputergames.co.uk and livedigital.co.uk, places you might browse for games online. Then you have the DC UK Buyer's Guide, advertising for people to buy, sell and trade consoles, computers and games. Quite a common thing in these mags. You've also got individual game retailers like GamesMad.com advertising titles like Crazy Taxi, NBA 2K00, Virtua Striker 2 and Red Dog at prices like £32.99. Project K and Games Terminal are also pushing their wares, listing a whole raft of games across different systems. Dreamcast games mentioned in their ads include Zombie Revenge, Crazy Taxi and Virtua Striker 2. It's all very much about getting your hands on the latest games and gear at the time. Oh, and there's a rather silly little comic strip about winding up your mates with a phone call, right in the middle of the buyer's guide section, a bit of light-hearted filler I suppose. This page reviews various Dreamcast content, starting with a humorous piece imagining a disembodied brain entertaining itself with Dreamcast games. It then features Emily Booth, Bits presenter, discussing her role as the gadget girl on the late-night show Bits, and her excitement for upcoming games. Game reviews include Trickstyle, praised for its cool aesthetics and fluid movement. Soul Calibur is highlighted for its fast moves and lavish locations. Crazy Taxi is humorously described, and Shenmue earns high praise for its detail and revolutionary AI. Metropolis Street Racer receives similar acclaim for its accuracy. The page concludes with a large advertisement from Simply Games, promoting discounted Dreamcast games, including Crazy Taxi with a wheel, Tomb Raider, Soul Reaver, MDK2, Metropolis Street Racer, and Rayman. This page is showcasing an advert for Rayman 2, The Great Escape on the Dreamcast, boasting about its ultra-fast gameplay and incredible graphics. It also mentions new levels being available to download from the Rayman 2 website, and highlights an exclusive multiplayer map for up to 4 players. Alongside the Rayman advert is another ad for Essential Selection with Joytech, featuring a racing car and talk about sticks and mice and University Challenged, but this seems to be unrelated to Dreamcast games directly. The next page showcases the Essential Selection from Joytech, and it seems to be all about PlayStation accessories this time. There's a range of peripherals advertised, from light guns and analog controllers to memory cards and cables. They've got things like the Analog Jolt controller, the AirPad which is a wireless pad, and even an official Jordan racing wheel. For multiplayer they are pushing the multitap, and there's even a PlayStation mouse, and link cable for connecting 2 PlayStations for multiplayer. Rounding it off they have cables like RF units, controller extension cables, and RGB SCART leads. It's a good overview of accessories for your original PlayStation if you were kitting yourself out back then. This page of the magazine continues with the Joytech Essential Selection, but this time moving away from PlayStation and focusing on both Dreamcast and Game Boy accessories. For the Dreamcast side of things, they're pushing the official Jordan racing wheel, designed with Jordan, for all driving games. They've also got the Controller Plus, boasting improved buttons, and the 9mm Enforcer arcade gun, which they reckon is the best for shoot-em-ups like House of the Dead 2. Then there's the Advanced Jolt Pack for Rumble, memory cards for saving your progress, and the usual selection of cables like RGB SCART, AV, and controller extension cables. On the Game Boy side of things, it's all about enhancing the handheld experience. They've got the light and sound system, a kind of Allen kit with speakers and battery pack. There's a sound box for better audio, battery pack and adapter for powering on the go, a link cable for multiplayer, a dual light magnifier for better viewing, and a soft pocket pouch to keep your Game Boy safe when you're out and about. Over on the right, there's even a voucher for a £5 off the Jordan Grand Prix Value Racing Wheel at Woolworths, and a competition to win a day out at Manchester United, which is a bit random, but there you go.